Great. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this morning. It's titled Mastering LinkedIn with Daniel Disney, and I'm certainly looking forward to asking some questions and hearing Daniel's answers. I'm based in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands at the moment at the beautiful Fordoon Hotel and Spa, and it's a wonderful place from which to have this interview. Just before I ask Daniel his first question, a bit of background that we've got is that Daniel is widely recognized as the king of LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. And he has over 1 million followers between his personal profile and his business page, The Daily Sales. I believe his content reaches up to 150 million people annually, which is incredible, and it generates millions in sales through LinkedIn. I hope I've got this all right. Daniel can correct me afterwards. It's very impressive. Daniel is a best-selling author of 4 LinkedIn books and collaborates with some of the world's largest companies to enhance their LinkedIn growth strategies. So, Daniel, it's really good to chat to you this morning. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you for having me, Ron, and thank you for the introduction. It's always hard to sometimes you read and hear those numbers, but they're all true. I can back each and every one of them up, but I certainly don't take any time to stop and focus on that. I'm still trying to get bigger numbers and continue to grow and essentially practice what I preach. So I'm looking forward to sharing as much value as I can around leveraging LinkedIn today with the group.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Daniel. And I mean, I've got to start off with Daniel Disney is such a catchy and interesting name. It's intriguing. Can you let us know a bit more about you before we kick off?
Yeah, so every talk or webinar I do, I always start off with, my name's Daniel Disney. I am not related to Walt Disney because it's a bit of a humorous icebreaker. So Disney is my surname. Some people ask, is it a stage name? But it's my actual surname. But it's definitely a nice little quirky name that's probably helped make it a bit more memorable, I guess. But my background is sales. So the first job I had at 16 years old was in sales, and I've worked in sales my entire working life, climbing up the corporate ladder to sales director 6 years ago. And then I went self-employed and sort of run the business that I run now. But everything has been very much sales, which is why using LinkedIn and social media as a sales tool has been a passion for me, because it's not just about posting nice pictures and getting likes and followers, but actually creating customers and qualified leads and sales and revenue. So that's kind of the differentiator.
Oh, that's magic, Daniel. I think that LinkedIn is an anomaly to many people. They want to harness it and don't quite know how. So hopefully today is helpful. Maybe we could start off, could you let us know who should be using LinkedIn and why?
Yeah, so I mean, funny enough, Ron, how we obviously got introduced was through Mark Keating and Sales Guru, and I was in South Africa, I think just over a month ago now, to speak at a few of their events. And one of the slides I had in my session, and we spoke at Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town, and I had looked at how many people were active on LinkedIn in those locations, and for each one, it was over 1 million. I think even like sort of the bracket of South Africa was 10 to 12 million people. So there are lots of people actively using LinkedIn in that area, which is one of the reasons. But the biggest reason, if you can find just one of your customers or potential customers on LinkedIn, that's reason enough to be using it. And I imagine for most of the people here in the group, there will be a decent percentage of their existing customers and target potential customers that are using LinkedIn. And that's why it's such a powerful network. And if you can use it right, you can start to turn more of them into new customers.
Oh, wonderful. And, is there sort of starting point? Is there somewhere you recommend as step one?
Absolutely. So your LinkedIn profile is what I call the foundation of all success on LinkedIn. We can talk about content, we can talk about your personal brand, your company brand, but it's all going to drive people to your individual profile. Now, what a lot of people do when they sign up to LinkedIn is they almost fill it like a CV. And sometimes people use it to get a job, which is absolutely fine. But the problem is, if your LinkedIn profile is purely focused on you, it doesn't usually work well as a sales tool. And actually what we want to do is make it more about your customer. So less about you and how amazing you are as an employee or, your experience, more about your customer. What do you do? How do you help people? What problems do you solve? And so there are a couple of key areas that I would recommend. First is your profile photo. Again, a lot of people just look for the smartest picture they have and upload it. Most people now have pretty decent cameras on their phones. So if you can take or get someone to take a picture of you, headshot, shoulders and above, facing the camera and smiling, that works great. I'm going to pop something into the chat box. Actually, I might not be able to, won't let me send it to the group. We could put it in a follow-up. There's a platform called Canva, canva.com, completely free to use, and you can put your photo in there and remove the background. So if anyone's looked at my profile, you'll see it's got just a plain white background. It's easy to put a plain color, which then makes you stand out. And that's what we want to start doing with our profiles, is making us as sort of the individuals look professional and stand out. So good profile photo. And then the next key area is your about section. And again, a lot of people write this like a sort of a covering letter of a CV, and your about section should be just a little bit less about you and more about them. So it could be, my name's Dan. I help companies sell more with LinkedIn. Here are some of the common challenges companies face. Here's how I solve them. Here's some examples of companies that I've solved them for. If you're interested, feel free to message me or call me or email me, through these contact details. So it's just repositioning the profile to make it a little bit more about our customers. So when they look at it, you want them to know what you do. So the people that are interested start to convert.
Okay. Well, Magic, it leads me to a sort of add-on question to the next one, which was, how can you get the best results without spending hours each day? But could you also include in there, is LinkedIn for employees and business owners? Should both be on? And, a thought that comes to my mind is, do you employ somebody who's dedicated within that role? So a few parts there. How much time do we spend? Is it both employees and owners? And what about having a dedicated resource? Who is the person who manages it?
Really, really good questions. So in terms of how much time, I have a training course, which I'll happily share with the entire group here today, because we don't have time to go into it in full details. But I have a training course which is built on LinkedIn in 15 minutes a day, 3 activities, 5 minutes each. At a bare minimum, you can achieve really great results with just that. Now, I'll send the whole course, but those 3 activities are: number 1, 5 minutes a day, adding new people. So growing your network, adding some new potential customers, some existing customers, some peers, colleagues, but growing your network. So 5 minutes a day doing that. 5 minutes a day engaging. So LinkedIn's like an online networking event, and a lot of people aren't talking in the LinkedIn space. So 5 minutes a day, just comment on 3 to 5 posts and share your thoughts. It's the equivalent of going into a room full of people and just talking to a few people. That's all it is. But by writing a few comments on a regular basis, people start to see you. They see your name, they see your company, and you start to build up that brand. And then the third activity, the third 5 minutes, is sharing content. So again, trying to share a post once a day or at least a couple of times a week that's valuable to your audience. So if you sell financial services, for example, instead of sharing perhaps updates on your business or new customers, whatever it may be, give valuable content to your target customers. So it could be, if I was a financial services advisor, here are the 10 things I would prioritize in 2024, and just pure value give. So you're growing your network, you're getting your name out there, and you're starting to build a reputation by giving value to your target customers. So 15 minutes a day, if you can do that consistently, huge results. Next point was owners and employees. Absolutely beneficial for both to be active. So the reality of business now, traditional marketing has changed and is evolving very quick. So the traditional marketing model of corporate brand, corporate voice, corporate content has transitioned into personal brands and individual influencers, contributors. So you see this, there was a great example recently, Microsoft. The Microsoft company page posted a piece of content, and I think it got, I don't know, maybe a couple of hundred likes. The CEO of Microsoft posted a post and it got 12,000 likes. The
Wow.
individuals are driving so much more. People follow people. And so there's huge value. It doesn't matter if you're an employee or you're the CEO or you're a director, manager, doesn't matter about your position. People are following people, their journeys, their successes, failures, struggles, challenges. They're following the individuals. So anyone and everyone could and should be building their individual brands attached to the company online and building their own audiences and followers. And now I've forgotten. Oh, so in depth in those answers, what was the third question again, Ron?
The third one kind of leads into our next question, which is about what tools can we employ? Because I'd asked, would you have a dedicated person?
That
Who
was
is
it.
the person within a company? And, maybe when we talk about the tools, you could touch on what I believe is called LinkedIn Premium.
So in terms of having a dedicated person, some companies do and are recruiting. I'm seeing more of the larger companies now are starting to hire individual. They're kind of titled usually like community managers, and they sort of refer to the LinkedIn community in essence. The reality is I would first encourage anyone and everyone in your team or even just yourself to become more active and start building your own brand, but also look internally. Most companies have a social star that they might not even realize. There is usually at least one person who is either quite active on LinkedIn already or active on another platform, maybe Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And if they've got that interest and experience, it may be worth giving them just a little bit more responsibilities and a bit more freedom with your sort of social strategy. So always have a look internally first, but I would do it internally before you start hiring, and that additional cost and time and effort, it might be worth just looking at what you can do within. The only other caveat to that is I know a lot of CEOs or business owners would struggle a lot to find the time to really give LinkedIn its attention. So there are a lot of agencies, like personal branding agencies, that will do it for you, and they'll do all your content and your network growth and things like that. Again, it comes at a cost, but I would probably think it's the interim between hiring a full-time person. Sort of outsourcing might be the potential first option. But as you say, leading into tools, there are a lot of tools now that do make this easier, and AI has probably been the biggest one. So tools like ChatGPT, where it can help you create content a lot quicker. What might have taken you 30 minutes, an hour to write a good post on LinkedIn, ChatGPT can generate the sort of foundation, the skeleton of it, where you just then add a bit here, there, and sculpt it. Becomes a 5-10 minute job. So things like that can help. So everyone in the group and everyone who's watching this, everyone who's part of this is going to get a digital copy of my new book, which has 100 ChatGPT prompts, and it shows you how to use ChatGPT so your content doesn't sound robotic. You add your personal sort of tone to it, but it does save a lot of time. So ChatGPT is one. There's a list in the back of the book of my recommendations. A couple others I'll mention now. One is called Taplio, and Ron, I'll email you all the links to all the suggestions I've made in today's session so you can pass it on. Taplio allows you to schedule content in advance, which is very helpful, but it also has an AI content generator where, let's say you wrote a post and it was quite successful. You could take that post, put it into Taplio and say, create 3 or 4 more posts like this. And it takes your idea and then creates, and what it creates is quite impressive. So things like that just help become more efficient with being active on LinkedIn instead of having to constantly create all of this content. There are tools, and again, AI is helping a lot to kind of create it for you. So I'll send a list of some of my other recommendations, but there are some tools now that do make it a lot easier to be active.
Daniel, thanks. And thanks for these generous offers. Okay, please do take note, because we want to take that opportunity to get that digital copy and share it with folks that want to look into it, as well as Daniel's contact details, which we'll ask about. Just on the tools side, and I know this wasn't a question we had put down. LinkedIn Premium, is there an
Yes.
advantage to being a LinkedIn Premium member?
So again, LinkedIn Premium is quite expensive. I'll be completely honest. It's not a cheap tool to have. It is phenomenal, but it's like gym membership. A lot of people pay for it, don't know how to use it, don't learn how to use it, don't really use it much, and obviously won't get the results or the ROI they need. So, like with a gym membership, if you're going to buy it, learn how to use it properly and make sure you're putting the time in. If you put the time in and you use it, it can be very, very powerful. But Sales Navigator, the LinkedIn Premium, kind of sits above LinkedIn, and a lot of people pay for this, maybe use it, but they're not using LinkedIn. So what you don't need to pay for, you don't need to pay anything to have a fully optimized LinkedIn profile. That's
Okay.
free. You don't
Oh, that's
have to
magic.
pay to grow your network. I grew 100,000 followers on LinkedIn without premium LinkedIn. That was just free standard LinkedIn. You don't need to pay to create and share good content or send messages to people. All these things are available on free LinkedIn, and what most people aren't using is just the basics. So I always recommend max out free LinkedIn, grow your network, start sharing good content, build your personal brand, all of those things. When you are consistently doing that, give it 3 6 months and you're seeing some results and traction, then premium LinkedIn can help you get to that next level. But it's not a shortcut. It doesn't fast track anything. You really want to be building those basics. Some people have premium LinkedIn and their profile's empty, and
Okay.
they'll be paying all this money and their profile's almost holding them back from results. So I always recommend start with which is kind of good advice, I think, because then you don't have to spend money up front.
Yeah.
Start with the free stuff, max that out, and then if and when you think I'm thinking about it, feel free to ping me a message. I get lots of people saying, Dan, I'm not sure if it's the right time, and we, I ask a few questions. Okay, yeah, it sounds like the right time. Or actually, maybe not. Maybe do this for another month or two, because I don't want people to waste money. It's an expensive tool, and if you don't get results, ultimately it is a waste of money. If I pay for the
Yeah.
gym and I don't go, I'm not going to lose any weight. So, I don't want that to happen to anyone else.
Yeah, no, magic. And maybe on that point, I know one of our questions is what's the key to generating inbound leads from LinkedIn? Is there a key? You mentioned the 15 minutes a day, which is a real takeaway from me. That's putting that gym membership time in. But any other keys to note in terms of generating leads?
So if you want people to come to you, you need to give them a reason to, and you need to flip the traditional marketing mindset of if I want customers, I need to promote my product. That doesn't work. LinkedIn, social media, no one wants to be advertised to. They don't want to hear about your latest offers or how amazing your product is. What you want to do is number one, give value. So instead of advertising, promoting, just give to your audience. So whatever product it is you sell, as an example, I sell LinkedIn training, LinkedIn consultancy. Instead of me just talking about the products I sell, I'm going to show people how to get more out of LinkedIn. I was just, here are my LinkedIn tips. Here's my LinkedIn advice so that people get the value. And then if and when they're ready, I'm the person they come to. The other aspect that is the sort of cherry on top to this is the FOMO effect, the fear of missing out. Show people real results. So if I share a quote from a customer where they say, thanks to Dan's training, we added $2 to $3 million in new sales, that's going to make people think, I want those results too. So show people the actual results that you're delivering for your customers, whether it's a testimonial or a case study, or even better, something sort of physical like numbers or a real sign of achievement. Maybe it's a video recording of them saying how great it's been working with you. Anything like
Yeah.
that shows people that you do what you say. No one wants to be sold to. People are very cautious about buying things. So if you can show happy customers and real results, that's going to really help drive good inbound leads. Value and proven results are kind of the secret formula to, and if you do that as part of your content strategy, that's what will help you drive inbound leads, because you're giving to your audience and you're showing them that you can deliver.
Yeah, well, whilst listening and at risk of exposing my complete ignorance, my thought process, because this audience today will largely be in the travel community and who we share the audio and visual with. But I was thinking, well, I want to find travelers, so I should really talk about traveling in South Africa, safety tips, what to expect on safari, what to wear, as opposed to $9.99 for this experience. Is that kind of along those lines?
It is exactly that. And it always blows my mind, especially in the travel industry, how many, whether it's a hotel or a tour provider, often the social media strategy is sometimes quite low and actually just showcasing not what it is, but the experience, showing people what they're experiencing, showing the beautiful pictures. And as you say, tips. If I was traveling, if I was going to go on safari in South Africa, here are the 5 things I would make sure I did. Here are the 5, animals to look out for. Here are 5 tips to help see more animals. Give as much value to help people with their experience. And then again, on the back of that, share customers sharing their experiences. I mean, as an example, Ron, the amazing safari that you were able to help me set up, it was one of the first times I wrote a very glowing review for them. That would be something to promote on social media because I'm there sharing the incredible experience I had. I added all the pictures that I took when I was there. Those are the sort of things you want to share so that people think, because I shared them on my social medias and people were like, wow, that looks amazing. Where was that? I want to go there. And that's
Yeah.
creating that sort of interest.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, just our audience, that's Mantis Founders is owned by a gentleman, Adrian Gardner, who's quite a legend in our industry. And hopefully he's listening to this, or his team is, so that they can latch on to that glowing review. And Kay, we certainly need to too. So Daniel, before I go into my last 2 questions, you recently were in South Africa. You had your safari. Is it your first visit, and are you going to be back? Did you enjoy the experience?
So it was, I visited South Africa for the first time last year for a couple of other events and was just in Cape Town, was able to go up to Table Mountain and I managed to go cage diving with sharks, which was phenomenal. This was a very more expansive trip where I got to see different parts of South Africa and it was my first ever safari. And Ron, I cannot tell you, it is one of very few times where I've been speechless. Being out in the open with these amazing animals honestly blew me away to the point where this is over a month away. Like my background on my phone is still 2 of the rhinos that I was able to get, and phenomenal pictures. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and I have been talking about it constantly. And I absolutely hope to come back both for work, but I've got a wife and 2 kids, and we were already starting to think maybe in a couple of years, I'd love to bring them out to experience it. My youngest son was very jealous and really wants to come out. So I absolutely hope to visit South Africa as many times as I can.
Yeah, well, Daniel, you know who to call.
I do. I do.
When you bring your family. I've got 4 kids, and my title at work is Chief Wandering Officer for good reason. And it's a very special experience. It's quite humbling. And I find it's one of those things, sort of like when you're walking on the beach, but when you're out on safari, it makes you present. And sometimes you know your place on the food chain, but in a protected way. And
Yeah.
it's a humbling experience. But I want to close off with 2 more questions. In fact, I've got to throw one more in quickly. I apologize.
Please do.
LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Should we be looking at this as a whole? Is it one without the other? Can you give your thoughts on connecting the different platforms?
Really, really good question. And the reality, especially in the travel industry, is that your audiences are going to be quite active on every single network. It's a bit different to say like the corporate industry where LinkedIn is quite dominant. Actually, in some other spaces, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, all massively valuable. What I would add is definitely be active on every platform you can. What is an unfortunate reality is Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube, we're all kind of a bit too late to the party. So growing organically is really challenging than it would have been 10, 15 years ago when they were in the early stages. This is why there's a lot of noise around LinkedIn at the minute, because you can grow organically without having to spend money very, very quickly because it's in an earlier stage. That will change in 3 to 5 years. LinkedIn will be difficult like the others. So what I would recommend is where LinkedIn is very open at the minute, do leverage that as much as you can because it's very easy to grow very quickly. People can grow within 4, 6, 8 weeks, quite big audiences and successes. But my strategy, I'm posting on Facebook, I'm posting on YouTube, I'm, trying to get into TikTok. TikTok's another one where I think there is opportunities to grow quite quickly, but it's very niche and has its own set of challenges. But especially for the sort of industries that you're working in and the group is, there's definitely a ton of opportunities, but each one is different. So whilst there are core fundamentals, putting good content, giving value is going to be applicable to all, the formatting and all those things will change. So do your homework on all the other ones. It's just very difficult on some of those compared to LinkedIn and even TikTok.
Daniel, would you post the same thing on each of those platforms?
Good question. Yes and no. Some posts can be put onto each ones. Some are better to change in their formats. So I'll give you an example. I was at so the Killers, the band. I went and saw them at the O2 in London. One of the most incredible concerts ever. Now, coincidentally, England were in the quarterfinals, and it was happening during the gig. So anyway, the Killers stopped the gig for the last 2 minutes of the game, showed England winning, getting through to the finals. Obviously, we didn't win the finals, but
Wow.
nonetheless, they paused it. Obviously, the whistle went off. The crowd went nuts. They then go into Mr. Brightside. I recorded the whole thing. Now, I posted it in different ways. So on LinkedIn, it was posted. I cut the video down, put it into a square format, posted it on LinkedIn. For TikTok, it's a bigger screen size. So you have to then try and reformat it for that. Same as for Facebook, bit longer video. So there are some posts where it is smarter to sort of edit it or tweak it for each network, whereas a quote is probably going to be the same across all networks. So what I would suggest to everyone first, do some homework. Take 15 minutes, half an hour, go and look at your competitors, your customers, your industry on each of those networks, and just take notes on what you're seeing. What are the most common format sizes, the most common posts, the content types? Try and do a bit of research first, and that will give you a good idea of what's working where.
Daniel, I think we may have a question or two from the audience before
Please.
We close out with our final ones. Kay, can you pose the question to us?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got a question from Peter Lynn. Peter Lynn asked, how do you set up your personal profile if you are working with 2 different businesses?
Oh, that's a really good question. So if you go to my profile, you'll see I have different roles, I have a couple of businesses myself. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. There is a background image that sits behind your photo. It's almost like a little billboard. That's one place you can start to illustrate or tell people or show some of the different things you do. The other 2 areas that really help are your headline. So this is sometimes it's just a job title, but you'll see on mine, it's almost a bullet point style of the different things that I do. So that's a chance to say that you do this, you do that, you also do this. And then in your summary, it's a chance to dig a little bit deeper and just say, this is one of the things I do. Here's one of the other things that I do. And you can start to really tell people the different things, make it nice and clear. Again, you'll be able to see how I format it personally in my profile. When it comes to content, obviously, if you are promoting or selling 2 different things, then it's just a case of trying to split your content strategy. So 1 or 2 posts a week is for one thing, 1 or 2 posts is for the other. And when you're adding people to your network, again, you're trying to grow it across multiple things. But it's not as confusing. Some people ask, should I have 2 separate profiles? I definitely suggest against that. It's very confusing to people as to who or which one they need to choose. Just keep it as one and just split your strategy and try and make it as very simple and clear as possible what the different things that you are on offer. Again, if you look at my profile, hopefully it will show you sort of a nice, easy, simple way of doing that.
Well, that's great, Daniel, because we must share Daniel's profile and then the book, the digital copy of the book that he's generously said that the audience can have, which is wonderful. And I think just on that note, many of us wear different hats these days. It's really about getting comfortable with that. A lot of people have a lot going on, and it's embracing that and maybe moving forward. Daniel, two questions to close out. I'll try to put them in one. Is that I see we've said, how would a potential client go about engaging your services? And could you let us know about how we would go about buying your books? So I think it's about how we go about engaging you, your services. And could you let us know a bit about that?
I will wrap the answer to that question in another tip for the audience to give some extra value. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, and we'll make sure I've got a whole little training bundle I'm going to give everyone with the books. So I'll send those across to you, Ron and Kay, and we'll make sure everyone gets those. If you go to my profile, what you'll see is there is a button. So LinkedIn, about 6 months ago, launched the ability to have a clickable button on your profile. Never been done before. And they give you one link that you can send it to. So it could be your website or something like that. What I've done as a bit of a hack to this, there's a platform called Linktree, and there's lots of different ones like it, where one link takes you to a bit of a drop-down menu of links. So if you go to my profile, click on my button, it will take you to my Linktree, which has about 8 or 9 links, which has the links to each of my books. It has the links to my podcast, which again, completely free. There's 35, 36 episodes now, a link to my website and all the various products I sell. So that's the answer to the question. That's if my LinkedIn profile is the hub of everything, but that button is a very valuable tip for people, especially to the question around multiple products or services. If you can have one of those little drop-down menus where you can start to list how people can engage you in different ways, including some free resources. So here's some free stuff. Here's ways you can inquire about X, Y, Z. It just makes it, you want to make it easy. Make it as easy as possible for people to buy from you. It's often quite difficult, websites, all these things. So try and make it simple.
Daniel, I think what I'm taking away in closing is that if we're not harnessing LinkedIn, we should be. You've told us the 15 minutes a day, and we can go and look at your profile, get some tips, and we greatly look forward to the digital book that you're sharing. And then we'll also engage about what info we can give out to connect with you, because there may be brands that want to engage you directly to try and do more, and you can help to guide them with this. So we thank you for your time today. We hope to see you in South Africa again with your family next year. And yeah, we appreciate your time today. Thank you, Daniel.
So you're welcome. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to message me on LinkedIn or email me. I'm here to help. And hopefully this helps you get started on LinkedIn. And I look forward to seeing lots of the group on LinkedIn soon.
Magic. Thanks, Daniel.
Take care, everyone.